Welcome, everyone, to our Calgary event for the International Day to Eradicate Poverty. My name is Hannah. Over the years, I have participated in a number of similar events planned and hosted by Poverty Talks. I am honored to be your co-host for today, and with my pleasure, I have Franco Savoia as my co-host. Franco has had a career in the volunteer sector, and most recently was the Executive Director of Vibrant Communities Calgary for 6 years. He retired in 2019 and has continued volunteering with the organization, doing what he can to support the Enough for All Act, Calgary's poverty reduction strategy.
Hannah, it's just so wonderful. Thank you to be co-hosting with you today. It truly is a privilege. We know that the burden of the pandemic has been so much greater on Canadians who are living in Calgarians and Canadians who are living in poverty. We also know that more of our neighbors have fallen into poverty throughout this pandemic. We need to increase our awareness of the plight of so many Calgarians, and this has never been greater than before. And it isn't just knowledge we need to act. We are called to action, and that is the purpose of our event today. Please note just a couple of items that we want to make sure that everyone, we're just so delighted with the number of people participating today. The webinar is being recorded so that many folks that could not join us today will be able to be part of this event. The chat function is available. However, if you have questions or comments, please use the chat room on the bottom of your screen. That's how we're going to communicate with each other, given the number of people we have participating. And please remember, I mean, honestly, in this kind of, to really have respect with each other, in terms of we may have different views, but we really kind of encourage for us to be respectful to one another.
Some of the topics that we will be discussing today may bring up some uncomfortable or distressing feelings. It is most likely during this session that you will hear comments or stories that are related to suicide, several mental illnesses, trauma, etc. We have Monica, a trauma therapist and human service counsel today, online with us to support. Please contact Monica through the chat if required. Monica is also available after the session in case any participants request additional support or after the call. She also put her phone number in the chat if you would like to reach her that way. We have a lot of people working to put this all together, and we would just like to pull them out and shine some spotlight on them. So Amber, Bev, Crystal, Donnie, Maria, Susan, and Amber were a part of that group. Thank you so much to the City of Calgary, the United Way, and Momentum. Some of the people that will be joining us today will be Elder Wallace and his wife that will be coming in later on, Mayor Nenshi, Vibrant Community Calgary members, and of course, the 7 individuals that shared their story with us. We are privileged to be gathered virtually on Treaty 7 land. It's my honor to introduce Elder Wallace Allison to our event to start us off in the best way possible. Before Elder Wallison starts, please remove your glasses and close your eyes while the ceremony is happening.
Oh. How many done we mugging it to by relations? Normally, when we start our sessions for whatever ceremony we're doing or meetings or etc., we like to start with the smudge For those of you who don't know why we do a smudge, it's in regard to clearing the air, getting everybody set and relaxed and be ready for whatever comes up in our meetings. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and say the prayer and the blessing for everyone here and all the subjects that we're about to embark on. I'm going to ask the Creator to come and sit with us and guide us as we speak and as we go through our session here today. And then at the end of this prayer that I'm going to be doing here is I will be singing an opening prayer song. With that, I just like to have everybody reflect on all the good things that happen in their life for them at this point in time. All the negatives take care of themselves, so we're not too worried about that. We just want to ask for good things to happen in the future so that we can all work together. Good. Thank you. I just want to say that thank you for this beautiful day and this beautiful session that's about to take place today. My name is Wallace, given name. My spiritual name is Man of the Earth. And ask good things to happen. We ask you to watch over each and every one of us here. Watch and guide us through our session so that we can function at a good level and look after each other as we go through. We thank you for all these leaders that are putting this together today. You're the only one that knows how to do this and guide us and look after us. We ask a blessing for everybody in the circle as well as out of the circle. You and your helpers, we ask a blessing for you. Thank you for coming to sit with us. You're the only one. Thank you for listening. Short song. Asking a blessing from all the money Duke we call, which is all the spirit people. And just reflect on all the good things in life that that's been given to us. Miigwech going to miss you, miss. Thank you for coming to look after us. Miigwech, thank you for looking after things. Let's carry on. Thank you very much for listening.
Elder Wallace, sorry. Elder Wallace, our sincere thank you for joining us today and setting the platform for us to and the circle for us to have this very, very important conversation. Honestly, thank you for being so much part of us and for all the work that you do in our community to bring us together. So thank you. Thank you.
Jimmy Rich, thank you for that.
Okay. Well, from here we would be moving on to our to have a special presentation from our mayor, but we're waiting for him, I believe. Is that correct, Matt? Yeah. So I think what we're going to do,
Franco. So just some technical difficulties, but he's on his way here, so we can picture it like he's in a car.
Okay. So what we'll do then, we're going to move to the next presenter, if that's okay. We just go to adapt, and
here, Franco.
What's that?
I'll take it over from here.
Okay. Well,
I'm delighted to hear the voices of those who have lived poverty experience in our city. These videos talk about their experience. Let us watch and listen.
I have a few questions here that maybe you can help me to better understand the issue of poverty in Calgary. How did poverty choose you?
I was born into it. My parents were born into it. We've tried, our family did try to get out of it, but with all our mental health issues and the addiction issues and stuff, it just kept us down in there.
How would you define poverty?
It's really hard when, I'm not going to chalk it all up on just mental health and stuff like that, but a lot of it does have to do with that too. My opinion, I think you have to have a higher education level and stuff to be able to rise above that.
From my perspective, it seems that if you have children, are there ways that we can encourage your children to stay in school so that they do get better education and maybe they can break the cycle?
With the COVID and all that stuff, it's still, you don't really get as much attention in school. They just kind of push them through the school system and stuff and don't make sure, okay, maybe we should help this child a certain way or help this child a certain way.
So I know that sometimes people can come and help out in the schools with to help the teachers. You know, our Rotary Club has adopted Connaught School, and so we go there and we help young children to learn to read better. So maybe the idea of getting some assistance in the school, that sounds like it might be something that would be benefit you folks.
Definitely, I so agree with you, because maybe a little bit more, you know, more volunteers or something, or more maybe teachers that are retired to come in just for volunteering wise, right?
Yeah.
To help out the kids and teach them and get them a little bit further ahead.
Are there other barriers that you see?
The housing, because we don't have a rent cap here in Calgary. Landlords are starting to hike up prices. It's insane. A couple of my friends right now, they're on very low income, and they got their rent raised $50 more a month. And that's hard on them because that cuts into a bill or into groceries or something, right? It is hard to get renters to rent out to you, especially if they see you're on welfare or AISH or on a part-time job. And when you do find a landlord that will take you, it's a slumlord, and they won't fix the place up. Like right now, I live in a townhouse, and my landlord, we have cockroaches. And because I'm low income, I don't get the help. That's what we have to live with, us people that are on low income. We have to deal with the mice, the cockroaches, the bed bugs, you know, stuff like that. And the landlords don't really care, because if we move out, they'll find another person that's on low income that will just take the place. So they really don't care what their places look like.
What aid would you like to see and be willing to accept to improve your life?
I think that mothers with children need a little bit more help with their children for after school programs. The housing, I'm really big on the housing part. Just someone out there to help us, even to, it's so frustrating.
What do you think that the rest in Calgary can do to help raise awareness of the issue of poverty and to address poverty in a meaningful way?
I'm not saying go down to the neighborhoods or anything like that. I'm just saying, I don't know, if you see someone that you think is down and out, just say hi. Just, because we have this perspective of people who are well off, that they're all stuck up and they really don't give a shit about us. But if people said hi to us or anything like that, stuff like that. Like, just show that we're people too, that we are humans too.
What you said has been so powerful, just say hi.
So my first one is, what is of getting some assistance?
A very long.
If you see someone that you think is down and out, just say hi. Just, because we have this perspective of people who are well off, that they're all stuck up and they really don't give a shit about us. But if people said hi to us or anything like that, stuff like that. Like, just show that we're people too, that we are humans too.
What you said has been so powerful, just say hi.
So my first one is, what is the biggest hurdle for you at the present time to meet your current needs?
Not enough income to last throughout the month. I had an unsuccessful surgery, and I had no choice but to ask help from the government. And it was very hard because I was the breadwinner for a very long time.
I recognize and understand, having been a breadwinner, how difficult this must have been for you to, you're the one doing all the helping for everybody else, I'm sure. And so to ask for help in return must have been a difficult thing for you. What was the general feeling when you were having to go through the different processes of getting some assistance in this regard?
I had to wait for quite some time for the assistance from the government to come through. And I didn't know what to do in between when I lost my job and the government's funding kicked in. I found it very, very hard, to make it through.
Were there any other sources that you were able to reach out to at that time?
Yes, Alberta Works. I applied for them, and they did help me. I was very grateful, but again, to what I used to bring home with Alberta Works, what they offered to help me with, it was a huge challenge.
What would, in your mind, have been a more viable solution?
The home, it was nice to live in, but the challenge, it was how to come up with the money for the rent, for the food, for medication that I needed.
What was there? Was there a source of any kind that a church or an organization, a community involvement that was able to provide any support for you in those at that time?
I had to, at that time, yes, I had to approach a couple churches to help me out through the month for food-wise. Not enough funding or not funding or income, for the medication that I needed. So I made the best I could.
And medication is not something you want to shorten your ability to take that. I'm sure that's stressful.
Exactly.
What long-term needs could you identify in terms of improving your life right now?
Right now, I think the government needs to step in and put some kind of a stop for the landlords, to raise the rent anytime they feel like it. The support income that I'm getting, I feel that it should be more than what I'm getting right now in order to make it.
Is it difficult for you to access food if you need food and medicine? You mentioned having churches that you were able to go to. Is there a secure commitment of some sort that makes you feel comfortable knowing that it's there for you and it's easily accessible?
If I know that it's there and they would be able to help me, yes, I will approach them. But I just don't know of any sources. And the church that I mentioned, I don't think I can go, every month and ask for help. The government, the assistance that they're helping with the people with disabilities, they should give a little more. And as I mentioned a little bit earlier, it has to be done about rent. The landlord cannot, come and say, oh, you're getting, 3 months after you're going to pay this much. Okay. And during the pandemic that we were at last year, my rent was raised close to $100 more. I didn't have anywhere else to go. And I like the area here. I had no choice but to pay, the raise of the rent. And also, I have a son that he is mentally challenged, and he cannot live on his own. So wherever I go, he has to come with me.
Have you been able to source anything of that nature, or are you aware of any sources that you can approach on that?
No, I don't.
So being able to be provided with that would be of value to you?
I'm pretty sure it will be, yes.
I appreciate your comments and your detail in that.
The affordable housing, it's 4 years of a waiting list.
So obviously it means that there is not enough affordable housing.
Yes.
Do your disabilities restrict you in any way in being able to access safe food hampers? And I know there are churches that do have these, as you mentioned, but it may mean going there. Do you have accessibilities in terms of being able to get out and about?
No.
Okay.
in the house at home. I can walk with difficulty, but I manage. But outside, I need my wheelchair because of my balance. I'm losing my balance, and that's due to the surgery that I had about 4 or 5 years ago.
If food is available, say through the church, do they deliver it to you, or do you have to find a way to get there?
No, I have to. I have a friend that when she's not working, I have to work around her schedule.
Right.
She's helping me out.
Right. So that's not always, does not always match necessarily what the food assistance provides or is available. You would be dependent on finding somebody at a time when she would be available then for you, right?
Yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Maria. You provided a great insight into your situation as an individual, and as you see it, not as someone like myself that is looking at it from the outside could try and portray. It's valuable information, and I thank you so much for taking the time and the effort to do that with us.
You're very welcome, and thank you.
Thank you so much. What powerful stories, and we'll hear more. Your candor, it's making it all real. It is a trap, and that's what we're focusing on today. Well, it is truly a pleasure to introduce our next presenter. And of all the people I know, he's probably the one that needs no introduction. However, it would be untoward for me not to say a couple of things. The first thing I really would like to say about this man is that he really put poverty on the agenda when he got elected 11 years ago. And without him, I am absolutely convinced, that we probably wouldn't be here today, because under his leadership, we really focused through the stewardship group that was formed, the Calgary Poverty Reduction Initiative back in 2011, 12, 13, that led to the Enough for All strategy, one of the first municipal strategies in this country. And that just could not have happened. So I think our heartfelt thanks to you and to this presenter. So help me welcome today, unconditionally being the champion of poverty reduction in our city, Mayor Naheed Nenshi.
Well, thank you so much, Franco, for having me. Thank you all for being here today on the International Day for the Eradication of Poverty for this edition of Poverty Talks. It is a huge pleasure for me to be able to be here with you all today. The election is tomorrow. Don't forget to vote. I get to be the mayor for one more week, but nobody really cares about me this week. So this is my last major conversation as mayor, and I am so honored that this is the conversation we're having. We are in a very difficult time, but at the same time, we have the opportunity to think about where we have come from. And because, of course, I'm coming to the end of my term, I'm thinking a lot about kind of the scope of the last 11 years and how we got to this place. And, many of you know, some of you may not, because I don't talk about it very often, but I grew up in a family that was often poor and sometimes very poor. And I realized that although we have so many great organizations doing great work with individuals and families for so very long, we hadn't really moved our societal rates of poverty. And we particularly hadn't moved rates of child poverty, despite every politician promising to do it in every election. And I realized that we needed to think about this differently. And I often say that I'm not very bright. I only have 2 answers to every question, and they're the same answers. One is put the person you're trying to help at the center, And the second is look at the entire system. And so when we convened the Calgary's first anti-poverty strategy, later called Enough for All, we started with this incredible stewardship group led by Steve Allen and Kathy Williams. And the criteria to be on the stewardship group was very simple. You had to be smart and you had to care. That's it. And if we could find people who cared about this, who could help us think about it from a systemic view, by putting the person at the center, we would be able to do incredible things. So you've heard me say many, many times, and you heard it in Maria's incredible video that we just watched, that Enough for All is focused on one simple concept. It's the first line. My neighbor's strength is my strength. My neighbor's success is my success. Every single one of us has a stake in every other one of us. And the corollary of that, of course, is my neighbor's failure is my failure. So the very last thing that Maria talked about when she was asked, well, if you can't get out, how do you get your groceries? She said, well, I have a friend. And I have to work around my friend's schedule, but I have a friend. That's my neighbor's strength is my strength. I remember years ago, one of my students, Bob McGinnis, that many of you will know, was running brown bagging for Calgary's kids. And I asked him, what's your solution? What's your goal? What are you growing towards? Because that organization was growing really quickly. You couldn't volunteer there because so many people wanted to help. And he said, the goal here is not for us to make even more sandwiches at our downtown kitchen and distribute them across even more schools. The solution for us is that every parent think to put an extra set, who can do it, who can afford it, think to put an extra sandwich in their kid's lunch because they know there's another kid in the class who could use that sandwich. My neighbor's strength is my strength. That doesn't relieve government from solving the problems, not at all. But oftentimes we as citizens have to lead our leaders. And you've heard me talk about this in terms of 3 Ps: policy, programs, people. You got to get the policies right. You got to be in a situation where government is doing the right things. And for example, with the child tax benefit, we've actually cut the rates of child poverty with one program by nearly half. That's extraordinary. And that's something that we should be very proud of, but we should also ask ourselves, why did it take so long for us to figure out how to do that? So we got to get the policies right. We got to have the programs right. So we have to have nonprofit organizations and other agencies, affordable housing providers and others, very thoughtfully thinking about how is what we are doing really effective. You know, at the city of Calgary, for 11 years, all of my 15,000 colleagues have lived by a very simple mantra: making life better every day. In fact, we just changed it because we realized we made a mistake. It's now making life better every day for everybody, reminding us that we have to look after everyone who is lucky enough to share this ancient land with us. So we got to have those things right. And that is where Enough for All started. It really was around bringing together the community and saying, let's actually say, this works, this doesn't work, let's do less of this, let's do more of that, and let's figure out how we can help more people using the resources we have. Because that title, Enough for All, has 2 meanings. It says that in a society that is this wealthy, even in tough times, there should be enough for everyone. Everyone should be able to live a dignified life. But it also says that in a sector, an anti-poverty sector, that is so large and so diverse, there should be enough skills and enough resources for us to do an even better job. And so that's really part of what we're talking about. Housing is a great example. And listening to some of those videos and talking about the housing waiting lists, I was reminded of one simple thing that we're still working on. It's taken us so long, but it's just to make it easier for people to apply for housing. So they don't have to apply for 20 different waiting lists and kind of manage them, but have a 1 window entry process where they can be matched across the community. Sounds simple, we're still not there. But these are the sorts of things we have to work towards and continue to do. And then the last one, of course, is people. And that's where Maria's friend who gets her the groceries comes in. That's how every single one of us have the ability to make real change. And we can't rely and wait on politicians to do it. One of the challenges we found is that our political system now has found itself somewhat inadequate to be able to address the very real issues we're facing now. I often say that as a society, we're facing 5 simultaneous issues right now, any one of which would bring any lesser society to its knees. Of course, the first one is the public health crisis and the pandemic. The second one is the mental health and addictions crisis, which was always here, but has been laid bare even more so by the pandemic. And by the way I chose to make Enough for All the cornerstone of my first term as mayor, my third term as mayor, long before the pandemic, I decided we would have Canada's first community-based action plan on mental health and addiction. It's called a Community of Connections. And I'm so pleased that Council unanimously approved that earlier this year, and now it's time to make it real. The third, of course, is terrible economic dislocation, which is a very significant problem throughout our community. And the challenge there is that the kinds of jobs we relied on before may not be coming back, and there's also a structural challenge. So as you all know, during the pandemic, one of the things that we learned was that you really didn't need management consultants like me so much. You didn't really need securities lawyers. You needed grocery store clerks and truck drivers and warehouse operators. And we discovered that the people that we call essential service workers are often the lowest paid people in our community. And I often talk about how there is an entire group of people in our community that we never think about. They wake up very early in the morning and they get on a bus and they go to their job at a long-term care center, and they wake up our parents and grandparents and change their diapers and get them ready for breakfast and help them through lunch. And at lunchtime they have to leave because their employer will only give them 30 hours a week so they don't have to pay benefits. And they take another bus across town to another long-term care center, and they do the same job for the evening shift. They're almost all women. They're almost all racialized women. And we have created and nurtured a system where they do our dirty work and we don't pay them. And they work 60 or 70 hours a week and they cannot live a life of dignity. We got to come to terms with that. And we've got to figure out how to make sure that our economic system is more just. And we never talk about that at the political level. We never talk about how the goal of the economy should be decent work for everyone. How the goal of the economy should be that if you go to work, you can live a good life and you can raise your kids. You know, I'm reminded, sorry, I've got lots of stories and I know I don't have lots of time, but I'm reminded of a story early on in my term where I was at McDonald's. McHappy Day is the day when politicians go and pretend they know how to work at McDonald's and work at the till and raise money for Ronald McDonald House. And I was chatting with the woman at the till next to me who was an older South Asian woman. She had a name tag that said assistant manager. And I said, how long have you been working at McDonald's here? And she said, 30 years. And I kind of looked at her funny and she goes, I know, let me explain. When we first came to Canada, my husband and I didn't have great English. Her English was fine, by the way, but we didn't have great English, but we needed to find a job. And we settled in this neighborhood. So I just went walking around to see who would hire me. And this McDonald's down the street from my house hired me. And I said, tell me more about that. She said, well, I worked at this McDonald's. My husband worked at a warehouse and we raised our family in this neighborhood. I said, well, how's the family? And she said, oh, family's great. My son is an engineer. My daughter just finished law school. And I kind of looked at her and she said, and you're wondering why I still work at McDonald's. And it's because I like my job. I like my customers. I serve my neighbors, but it's also because they were really good to me and they helped me get to where I need to be. And all I could think was, could a family now where the mom works at McDonald's and the dad works in a warehouse actually raise their kids? Could their kids be able to go to university and have access to what their kids had access to even 10 years later? These are the sorts of things that we really have to come to terms with as we are implementing our poverty strategies. Anyway, the fourth issue is, of course, the environmental issue, climate crisis. And then the fifth issue is the broad issue of equity. Income equity, as I've suggested before, racial equity, moving from pluralism to true anti-racism, moving from reconciliation to reconciliation, and ensuring that we can build that life of dignity for everyone. But that's what we do. That's what we do here on this land. And even though my voice is going to be different going forward, even though I won't be in this job anymore, what I know is that this city is made up of 1.4 million people who want to do great things for this city. And we are going to be great. Everyone always says to me, I'm sad to see you go. We're going to miss you. I'm like, I'm going to miss me too. But I know that we are going to be amazing together. So let me finish by sharing a story I've shared with Poverty Talks before, but I want to tell this story one last time. It's not my story. It's Colleen Houston's story. It's a story that comes out of the Disability Action Hall. And the story is that when Calgary became the first city ever to have a sliding scale low-income pass as part of our low-income transit pass, as part of our fair entry program, which tries to bring dignity to the whole idea of applying for subsidies for city services. We've had a low-income transit pass for a long time, but we became the first city in the world to have a sliding scale so that if you make less money, you pay less. And if you're earning less than 50% of the low-income cutoff, you get to ride transit unlimited for $5 a month. And by the way, before I tell my story, I will tell you that 1 in 10 Calgarians so far qualifies for the full subsidy low-income transit pass. We never thought the numbers would be that high. And that's not because of the downturn in the economy. You don't go from an oil and gas job to 50% of LICO. And it's not because of the pandemic. Those people were always there and we never knew about them. That's why Poverty Talks is so important. That's why we have to hear these voices. But it meant that there were people in our community that were completely isolated. They couldn't participate in the community. In this little program, which, it's expensive, but it's modest in cost when you think about what the city and the province spend money on, has made such a difference in people's lives. So the story is this: the day after we announced the sliding scale income pass, a woman came to City Hall. She had a family of 5. And that family for many months could only afford 1 transit pass. And so they would use it amongst themselves, they would transfer it, or they would take a risk of getting a ticket and riding the train without a fare. So she came up to the 3rd floor at City Hall to buy her 1 transit pass for $45. She took 2 20s and a 5 out of her purse. Said, I would like my transit pass, please. Person at the till looked her up and said, well, that'll be $5. She left $40 on the table. The woman looked at her and said, well, what do you mean? And she said, well, we have this new pass. It's only $5 now. So the woman looked at the money on the table, took $20, put it back in her purse, put the other $20 and slid it across the table and said, I'd like 4 more, please. Think of the difference that made in that family's life. Just the stress of not having to worry about getting that ticket that you'll never be able to pay for riding the train without a fare. That's why we do what we do. And I really want to end on a note of great gratitude. I want to thank all of you. I want to thank the people with lived experience who are brave enough to share their experience through Poverty Talks. I want to thank Meaghon and her team at Vibrant Communities Calgary for the extraordinary work you do. Cori, thank you so much for leading that work. It matters. I want to thank Franco, and I am so happy, Franco, that it's you that introduced me today. I'm going to get all emotional because you've been a leader and mentor in this work for me for so long, reminding me of what is so incredibly important. I want to thank our friends at Momentum and all of our community partners who are here with us today to keep doing the work. It's been the honor of my life to even a little bit move the needle forward on this. And I know all of you, through your service, through your seva, as I call it, will continue to make this place really great. And I hope to be a part of that story too. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Nenshi. And we just wanted to thank you right back for not only coming to this event, but being a part of Poverty Talks for a very long time. And your 11 years. We can't wait to see what you do when you're not the mayor, because you were such a fabulous one. And we have a little video to show our appreciation and gratitude for all the years of your amazingness.
Hello, Mayor Nenshi. I would like to take this opportunity to thank you for all of your support with my resident Flex program, Little Free Food Pantries, as well as all the support you've given to Poverty Talks over the years. I wish you all the best in your future endeavors. And once again, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor Nenshi. I would really like to thank you for supporting the Enough for All strategy and also helping us launch Soap and Suds at the Ernie Star Arena, as well as the community hubs that have helped so many community members. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor Nenshi. Poverty Talks really appreciates all of the hard work and efforts that you put in behind trying to fix poverty in the city of Calgary, and being an awesome mayor. We really appreciate you, and you will be missed.
Thanks, Mayor Nenshi, for your support, and thanks for being here when we need you.
Nancy, my name is Maria. I am with Maria's Food Pantry Assistance. I would like to thank you for what you have done for us, all of us here. And I would like to thank you for your support. I wish you well in your next endeavor. Thank you.
Without your vision of enough for all, policies and decisions at City Hall would be made without the voices of people living in poverty and those that they affect. You have given us a voice at the table to have policies made for us, by us. For that, we thank you with whole hearts and wholeheartedly. It is with very much gratitude. Thank you, and we wish you all the best in your new adventures and endeavors.
Hello, Mayor Nenshi. I have heard that you're not running and that you're no longer going to be our mayor, which is kind of a problem for me because, you know, I live in Calgary and our weather kind of sucks. So when I'm talking to my friends home in Ontario, I get to say things like, yeah, it might be, you know, beautiful sunshine and not freezing cold, but I have the best mayor. And now, also, who's going to warn us not to be Nenshi nouns when things like flood happens? Like, seriously, we, us Calgarians, we're at risk of losing ourselves in the flood and going near those waters. And you said, don't be a Nenshi noun. And we all went, okay, we got you. Now you're leaving. I mean, we'll still share, you know, our common love of shopping at the Northeast Westwind Superstore. Yes, I've seen you there a few times. But it's not going to be the same. I don't know what we're going to do without you. It's been how many years? You've almost been mayor as long as I've lived in Calgary. You became mayor shortly after I moved here. So really, you're the only mayor I've known. I'm really, you know, I'm at a loss for words, but if you ask my colleagues, is like a miracle. All kidding aside, the work that you've done to help ensure the longevity of the Enough for All strategy, the things that you've done to protect people living in poverty, the tireless and endless efforts that you have made to make sure that people with lived experience and all lived experience have a voice at City Hall will definitely genuinely be missed. And you know, it's been an absolute pleasure to be one of your citizens. It's been an absolute pleasure to, you know, get to say that you are our mayor. And you will genuinely be missed by me and my family. And I wish you luck in the future. And I hope to see you around. And don't let the People's Party take your color.
Franco, you're muted.
Franco.
What a legacy that you're leaving. That's really what it's saying, Mayor Nenshi, and we truly, all of us, will miss you, but we know we can continue to count on you. We move on now to our next speaker. And today we have with us, when she's not at Vibrant Communities, she is the Deputy Executive Director of the Law Society of Alberta, hence she's a lawyer, and she's also the Director of Policy within that organization, supporting lawyers across the province. But her real fame is, I think, is that she really was on the 18-member stewardship group that Mayor Nenshi formed under the leadership of Steve Allen and Kathy Williams, that really stewarded and developed the Enough for All strategy over about a period of 2 years. And so, of course, that didn't end there. She continued to be involved over the years. And that now has resulted in our presenter being the chair of the board of directors of Vibrant Communities Calgary, who, as everybody knows, is stewarding the Enough for All strategy. Over to you, Cori. Unmute yourself, and nice to have you here.
Thanks so much, Franco. Three very difficult acts to follow. My goodness, incredible words from Mayor Nenshi, and then of course from the Poverty Talks members thanking him for all of his incredible work. And it's lovely to see you again, Franco, of course, and so glad that you're here and helping steward this very important day. And thank you so much to Poverty Talks for giving me this opportunity to say a few words. And I would like to begin by thanking Elder Wallace for his blessing to open this event. Elder Wallace, your wisdom honors us, and I thank you so much for being with us here today. And I do have to add my voice to thanking Mayor Nenshi as well for joining us, sharing his observations and his advice on his last official day as mayor. As has been mentioned, I was fortunate to be on the original Poverty Reduction Stewardship Group created by Mayor Nenshi in his first year. And it was that vision with the tremendous support of the United Way that made that first strategy possible. Given this was one of his first transformative projects, not his only transformative project, but one of his first, it's very fitting, I think, that he's here today to speak on the International Day for the Eradication of Poverty. It's a wonderful bookend to his important work, and we will miss his passion and leadership so much. And I think for many of us, hearing you speak today and seeing the emotion in your voice was very emotional for many of us as well. So thank you so much for bringing as you always do, your genuine self to these events. So we are, of course, hopeful that your successor will take up the mantle and continue this important journey with us. And I will give my plug for those who haven't already. Please do go out and vote tomorrow. It's very important for our city, as you all well know. I also want to take this opportunity to thank our key funders and partners. Neither the original Enough for All strategy nor the Refresh strategy would have been possible without the commitment of the United Way and the city. Both these partners have funded the work from the start and have provided much needed resources and expertise along the way. And I'd be remiss if I didn't also recognize Momentum, BCC's charitable sponsor, whose support has been vital to the Enough for All strategy. Again, by sharing its resources and importantly, its expertise, Momentum really has made so much of this work possible. So thank you, thank you, thank you to Mayor Nenshi, the City of Calgary, the United Way, and to Momentum. We are excited to continue this work, maybe without Mayor Nenshi at the helm, but with all of our partners alongside. So the theme of our discussion today, poverty, it is a trap, is such an important one. And as the videos so far have demonstrated, and as Mayor Nenshi's comments have reiterated, it's a trap because it's complex. It's not one thing that happens in a person's life that creates poverty, but rather many large and small circumstances, histories, life events that occur inside inadequate systems that provide inadequate support. The interviews conducted by Poverty Talks, the ones we've seen so far and the ones that I know we will see as the afternoon continues, are powerful because they show us that poverty is not the fault of the individual. They highlight the systems that repeatedly let people down and are in need of major reform. The pandemic has highlighted many of these systemic inadequacies, and poverty continues to rise in Calgary over the last very long 19 months. For some people and families, this is the first time they are experiencing poverty, and it's critical that they do not fall into the intergenerational poverty trap that we've seen play out for far too long. Enough for All, as we know, is our community strategy focused on systems level change so we can break this cycle now and for generations to come. ECC is privileged to be the backbone organization for this strategy and to work with Poverty Talks and so many incredible agencies and champions in advancing our common goals. So enough for me. I would like to again thank Poverty Talks and everyone who contributed to making this event possible. I know we will come away from this afternoon with new perspective, wisdom, and most importantly, with a heightened sense of urgency to continue this important work. I invite everyone attending today to share what they've heard with their friends, families, and networks, to get out and vote tomorrow, and together we can make poverty history in our city. So thank you so much to you all, and I look forward to the remaining part of the program.
Thank you so much, Cori. Your passion, your commitment is just exemplary, and thank you for your continued leadership, passion for this very, very important work in our community to make Calgary a better place for all. And now we'll move on to more voices from the community. Let's listen.
The hardest period of time I had in my life was right after I lost my husband to cancer. I was not only I had no income coming in, but I was also dealing with my son, who has now been diagnosed, and we found out that he has dyslexic autism. So it makes it really hard for him to work. He has since got on AISH, and I have now gotten my spousal or survivor benefit through, which took 8 months. We actually got an eviction from the place that we were in because we couldn't pay the rent. We really lucked out because just as we were trying to figure out where to take our furniture and belongings to, my son got his first AISH check, but a lot bigger amount because it was backdated. So we were actually able to go and find a place, pay the damage deposit and the rent. So we then had an actual place to move into. From there, I was still really in a funk because I was still dealing with my husband's death. And my son and I became quite a lot closer because we finally figured out what his issues were, which helped both of us. We've been able to keep our heads above water now, but it was quite a long struggle. Used to start out on Monday by going down to the Women's Center, and they used to give you a little bag of food. Tuesday, I would go to the Alex Center for vegetables, and on Tuesday evenings, there was a church near my house that if you lived in the neighborhood, you could go and pick up a food hamper. but stuff was still also limited. You could only have like 1 or 2 of each thing that was on the table. Then Wednesday, I used to go to a program at the Native Network called Cooking on a Budget. So I would get the hamper on Wednesday. Thursday, I started volunteering at Sunrise Community Link for the Commit program. And we used to do knitting, hats and mitts and scarves. For each sale that we did, we would donate another of, like, if a pair of mitts sold, then we would donate a pair of mitts to somebody in poverty. Fridays, I used to go to the Salvation Army, and they would give you a bag of food each week. Most weekends, I did a lot of volunteer work on the weekends through the different organizations that I had come across during my time of not knowing what to do or where to go or who to talk to or where I could get any help from. I remember the first time that I went to Sunrise Community Link, they gave me a little book, and in that little book there was all kinds of resources that you could find out, like where you could get food and where you could get some help with clothing or furniture or whatever it was that you might be needing. And I used to call that my Bible, because it took me through a lot of very hard times. When I was 18, I was hit by a vehicle. And it pushed my hip and leg, causing my womb to push up into my stomach. Therefore, the doctors told me that I had a 1 in a million chance of being able to get pregnant, and if I did, I would never be able to carry it to term. Well, at 18, I wasn't very happy about that. Once I started going to the chiropractor, she realized that my right leg was 2 inches shorter than my left leg. When she found that out, she started working on my hip and coaxing it back down into place where it was supposed to be. And I'm assuming that when she did that, everything else dropped into place, because bingo bango, I got pregnant. And even though I was in total shock, I was extremely happy. And the question came from my doctor, well, what are you going to do? You can't afford a baby. You should have an abortion. I totally freaked out, and I told him, like, an abortion was absolutely not an option. And I was quite okay with the situation being what it was, to have this child and raise it on my own. And I knew that I had a very good support team at that time, with my parents and all my family around. I couldn't have asked for a better child.
Doug and I lived at the trailer park on 44th and 17th, and it got shut down. But before that, my husband got beat up on 19th Avenue, and he was in critical condition for like 18 days. 4 of them were touch and go. He was a truck driver, and I was a second cook in camp. So we always had money. We owned our own trailer. We owned our own truck. We owned everything. And then he couldn't work after that. It was hell. Like all of a sudden, we didn't have the money to like pay the rent, to pay the insurance, to pay everything. Then the trailer park shut down, and then we had the rent to pay for the rent, and then but we didn't have the damage. So we never knew anything about welfare. We didn't know about anything. So we got a place, and it was $850 a month, and then it was $850 damage. Then we had the rent, and we went to pay it. And as we got to that apartment, he told us that we could pay the $850 and then pay $200 a month, $200 every 2 weeks to get cut up for the damage. But when we got there, our truck was loaded, and we went and gave him the damage and then the $200. And then he said no, he wanted it all at once. So then we didn't know what to do. So we went and got storage, which was $150 a month. Then we went and stayed at the TNC, and it was like $400 a week. So we stayed there for 1 week and did the storage was $650. But after that, we didn't have enough money to pay another week. So then we had to go to the mustard seed. It was scary. I was 55. Doug was 56. We've never been in conditions like this. I was petrified. So every time that Doug would get paid, we would stay another week at the TNC and then have to stay another week at the mustard seed. Then I heard about the In From the Cold. In From the Cold will take women. Well, Doug stayed out in the car, and then I would go stay with In From the Cold. Then they are the ones that told me to go to the Red Cross, and then they decided that they were going to help us. But we never knew nothing about how to go get help or anything. The church, Eastside Victory, was Pat, and the pastor there, and she used to come and bring us food and everything like that. And then she told us about the food bank and everything. So it was just by word of mouth. And then about the Women's Center and everything like that. Get a job at this, like I was 55 years old. And Doug is 56. Nobody will hire anybody in that age group. Even if you have training, like I'm a second cook. I worked in camps for years, and I made really good money. But once you turn 55, nobody wants to hire you. So when we stayed at the mustard seed, the showers were so hot that I would jump in and do half of myself, then jump out and cool off again, and jump in and do the other half. But I couldn't go completely into the full shower. It was so hot, and you just totally can't do it. And the only time that so anyway, I was walking downtown when they drive you to 39th Avenue, and then you got to have bus fare. Well, I was kind of lucky because Doug was working and he had money. Well, and he would give me money every day and to go eat and stuff like that. But I ran into Cups downtown when it was right across from on 7th Avenue, and they had a shower there. So I walked in and asked them if I could have a shower, and they said sure. So that's where I went from that time on. I never ever had another shower at the mustard seed again. it was just, oh, because we still had to do like Doug's lunches and everything like that. And then plus, like, for me to have bus fare every day and for me to go eat, but there was no place to go. I didn't know very many people in Calgary. So that's when I learned about the Women's Center, and I would go down there. And that's kind of where I met, like, all the friends that are really close to me right now are the ones that I met at the Women's Center. I was kind of one of the lucky ones because, like I said, Doug would give me money to take the bus, to go get something to eat, to do everything, like, and not knowing anybody that you could go visit or whatever, like, and the shame, like, I used to, like, I never once told, like, I have 3 sons and not one of them knew, because I knew that they would come get me. I knew that they wouldn't leave me in that condition, like, that it would kill them, because you feel ashamed, you know. But I mean, they all had children, they all had wives, you know, and they couldn't afford to help us, you know, and then we would have been a burden on them is the way I looked at it. Like, when you're first coming into poverty, like, there is no, like, who do you phone? What do you do? Alberta Works is the worst place to go ever. They treat you like dirt. They look at you like you're a nobody. And the only way I found out about help was like through the Women's Center, the Sunrise Community Link, and Eastside Victory. And like I said, in from the cold. If I hadn't had to go there, I would have never, ever, ever got any help. And I don't know where we would have been right now.
Wow, what powerful stories. I am pleased to introduce the Executive Director of Vibrant Communities Calgary, Meaghon Reid. She took over leadership of VCC in September 2019. A Newfoundlander by birth, she brought experience to the volunteer sector with a particular focus on mental health. She is thoughtful and caring, and we are truly blessed to have her leadership in stewarding the Enough for All as the staff leader of VCC. Please welcome Meaghon Reid.
Oh, thanks, Hannah. That's an amazing introduction, and thank you for hosting, you and Franco. No, I was lucky enough, not every leader is lucky enough to get to take over from somebody who's laid such an amazing foundation for the next leg of their work. And Franco, that's how I feel about you. So thanks to both of you. Thanks to everyone for coming today, with particular thanks to Mayor Nenshi. I'm going to say Mayor Nenshi about 10 times over the next 4 minutes, because it's kind of our last chance to do that. Chimagwit to Elder Wallace, as always, for opening us in a good way and for being with us. And to the members of Poverty Talks and the Steering Committee and Peer Connections Committee, there is an incredible amount of work that goes into an event like this. And this is just one of the things that they do all year. So we are so grateful to work with you. We're also grateful for our funders, the United Way, the City of Calgary, and our charitable sponsor, Momentum. And I'll give a shout out to my small but mighty team at Vibrant Communities Calgary. We're small, but there's a lot of passion on that team. And we're just so proud to work with Poverty Talks. And I'll also include Laura in that. Laura is with the Canadian Poverty Institute, and she's been working with Poverty Talks for the past few months. So as I watch Grace and Bev's video, I'm sort of reminded of how I felt at the beginning of the pandemic. I think for everybody, regardless of your financial position, you probably felt helplessness and panic. And you probably also had that instinct to put on maybe a brave face for your kids, or for your coworkers, or for people in your community. Even though at that same time you were wondering where your next meal was coming from, or how the next bill was going to get paid. And at the time, I don't think it was lost on people who live in poverty that that's been a daily reality for a lot of people for a long time. So having to balance all those feelings, that panic and some of that helplessness, and also wake up every day and do the things that you need to do. But there is an opportunity in that the whole community saw and felt in a very visceral way what that must feel like. And I'm optimistic about that kind of new community empathy in some ways. And it's something that I think we have to remind people of, you know, that no, it's no one person's fault to be in poverty. This is the result of systems that act upon you that might place you in this position. And to have, again, that feeling of, I don't know what I'm going to do next, but I do know I need to wake up today. I do know that I need to help my kids today or my neighbor today. That's something I keep hearing in these videos. And again, something I'd remind us to think about, harken back to March 2020. Like my colleagues have said, poverty is complex, but it's also really solvable. So we've seen examples like Medicine Hat. Here in Medicine Hat, Alberta, they have brought homelessness to functional zero because they decided to solve homelessness. It is solvable, and each person has a role to play in solving these complex problems. Some of the things that we've heard in the video so far are around housing, around income support, around food security, justice, health, employment, and transportation. These are all levers of change in the Enough for All strategy. And in the strategy, we have solutions to complex problems. So what can we do? Now is the time to engage heavily. We're in an election cycle, in an election year. Go to the polls tomorrow if you haven't been already. And remember that poverty is not a partisan issue. Poverty is not a partisan issue, and we cannot let people drive us into partisanship when we're talking about poverty. Poverty is a violation of human rights. Poverty is not inevitable, and poverty in many ways is a policy choice. It's a set of choices that we make. So I'm going to throw some links in the chat of things you can do. I don't want to take up too much time here, but everybody that's in this virtual room with us together here in Mohkinstsis can do something. The first thing you can do is to carry one of the stories that you heard today and let it motivate you into action. You can sign the personal pledge at Enough for All. You can get engaged in municipal policy, which is critically important, by getting educated and voting. So there'll be a good pledge to vote link in the chat as well. You can and must and should get involved in a truth and reconciliation journey for yourself, for your family, or for your organization if you aren't already. And there's lots of tools on our website that can help you out with that. You can get involved in powerful community campaigns like the United Way. If you're an employer, you can pay a living wage. If you're on the board of an organization that serves people with lived experience, you need to make sure that you have a person with lived experience advising your board and on your board, because we cannot keep creating solutions for people without having them involved in the problem solving. You can volunteer, and maybe as a homage to Mayor Nenshi, recognizing that he's always said that our neighbor's strength is my strength. Go talk to your neighbor today. And if you know your neighbor, go down the hallway or keep going down houses, depending on where you live, and find somebody that you don't know and actually talk to them and see what they need and see how they're doing. Because that collective community strength is going to be the thing that really moves us forward together. And together we can have that shared community vision where there is enough for all. Thanks.
Thank you, Meaghon, for your message. It is particularly relevant because we are focused on poverty reduction around the globe. I'm very excited to see more videos and learn more valuable information from those that are willing to share. All these videos match people in the conversation and is their real story. Let us watch and listen.
My first question is for you is kind of, what do you see some like ideas or thoughts that are floating around there about poverty that you often hear that just really aren't true?
The biggest ones that I guess get to me is the fact that everyone kind of, I don't want to say everyone, but most assume that poverty means you're a drug dealer or you're lazy or you're uneducated, and that's just not true at all. I'm none of those things, and I've been living in poverty for as long as I can remember. I was kind of born into poverty, and every day is a struggle to stay afloat and to stay above it. And so it frustrates me when everyone just assumes that most people in poverty are lowlifes of the world.
What would you say about sort of your individual experience? What do you wish that more people knew?
I guess for me personally, how hard I work and how hard my husband works. We are super strong, resilient people, and we work every day from sunup till sundown, and we still struggle. We still have the balancing act of, are we going to pay rent and NMAX this month, or are we going to do a little bit on all of the bills? And yeah, like I said, it's hard because we are extremely hard workers, and no matter how hard we try, we always seem to come up a little short every month.
If you could think of a few things that, like, as a society, we could do better to be supporting people who are living in poverty, what would you say?
First and foremost, I would say less judgment. Having more of an open mind and being, I don't want to say willing to help, because I do find a lot of people are willing to help, but they judge. So it's hard to accept that help or want to ask for the help, because you know that the minute you do, there's all of this criticism and judgment that comes along with it. And I almost get, once I ask for help, they're like, yeah, I'll help you here. And here's some things you can do to make it better next month. And I'm like, okay, but maybe that's something you could do. But I get a lot of people telling me to go back to school. They're like, just go back to school, try something new. And I'm like, that comes with student loans, that comes with time away from home and childcare. And there's so much more to it than I think a lot of people realize.
If you could see like one or two things that we could do to make like poverty kind of non-existent and just go like poof out the window, do you have anything in mind?
That's a hard question. I personally feel that until we can live in a world that's completely free of judgment, that accepts everyone for their strengths and their weaknesses, I don't truthfully see us ever completely being non-existent of poverty, which is sad. I guess a good step, judgment seems to be where I come from. I get a lot of judgment. So I think if we could all just learn to be a little bit less judgy and have more open hearts and open minds, it might take us a lot farther than we actually realize. I can only speak from my personal, but being born into poverty doesn't help. So I wasn't given those extra steps as a child, like kids who have their clothes that fit properly and go to school with full bellies and go to school and are excited to go home. Like all of those little things add up for somebody being successful in the world. So when you're hungry and you're cold and you don't really want to go home because it's not the most comfortable place in the world, it creates challenges and puts up walls that I shouldn't have had there at such a young age, and that just carries in through adulthood. Talking is an amazing first step. So thank you for being willing to ask the questions and listen. That's huge.
One of the questions I have is to say, when you look, I'm older than you, but we're all a little bit older. What would be one of your proudest moments when you look back over your life up to this point?
Some of the proudest moments I've had is when I was able to get my first condo. That was one of my proudest moments. The other proudest moment was when I got on Premier's Council. And one of the things that my family was very involved in was Boy Scouts. And I got my Queen Scout Awards. I got the 2 service awards as my father did, and I was very proud of that because I didn't figure being with disability I'd be able to do that.
Could you tell me a little bit more about the Premier's Council? I'm really interested in that. Like what was that?
The Premier's Council on the Status of Persons with Disabilities. One of the things that we fought before was the low-income transit pass and equitable employment for disabled people. And we also did a number of initiatives around getting employers to understand the value of disabled people in the workplace.
Well, thank you for your work on that. What have been some key challenges that you have faced, up to this point in your life?
People to accept who I am, and accepting my disability, and what people can expect from me with my disability. I have in a lot of places where they go in and they just expect you're able to do whatever they want. And it's not always the case with me and a lot of other people. So in a lot of cases, I've lost jobs over that.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that. What do you do to make life bearable on a day-to-day basis then?
What I do to make life bearable is try and live within my disability to the best of my abilities and do the best I can and try and be Brad Roberts, and at the same time trying to be what other people would want me to do.
If there is one or two changes that you could flip the switch on and that would make life better for you and your family, what would those be?
This is a personal thing, but I think with my supportive people and my family, being more honest is the best I can do right now. And one of the things my family would like from me is to be more understanding of their side of things. And I'm trying to do that better. And I really think that a lot of people would like it if I was more upfront with them about what my needs and wants are so they can help me. Because everybody's trying to help me.
Right.
I'm accepting that help. And I've got to be more accepting of help because there's some things I just can't do and I need the help.
And this is kind of maybe a tough question, but I hope you don't mind me asking it. If you could paint the picture for yourself 2 or 3 years from now, or even a year from now, sometime in the future, what are 1 or 2 goals you have for yourself right now? Yeah.
One of the biggest goals I got right now is looking after my health. And I put that as my number 1 priority.
Brad, this has been an absolute delight. It really has. I really enjoyed our discussion.
Nigel, thank you so very much for meeting me here today. So would you be able to just tell me a little bit about yourself and maybe your family of origin, and just help me to understand who you are and where you've come from?
Well, I'm a 36-year-old male, kind of estranged from my family. I grew up in foster care and tried to reconcile with my mother as an adult, but it didn't go so well. So I'm kind of without that familial support. So
I hear the term lived poverty. Would you be able to help me to understand what that looks like for you?
For me, there are basic supports that I can access, like food bank. I live in a housing program operated by CUPS, and they're doing everything that they can for me. I'm on Alberta Works. I'm on the Expected to Work program. And if you're on the Expected to Work program, they actually cut you off, cut your funding. I actually make $150 less than I was when I was on the Not Expected to Work program.
Thinking back, are you able to identify any specific circumstance or circumstances that have brought you to be in the place that you are currently?
Dysfunctional family home certainly hasn't helped my mental health, which does make it harder for me. I also have post-traumatic stress disorder and generalized anxiety disorder. I am a recovering drug addict. It's been clean from my drug of choice for 17 years this December. Knock on wood.
Yeah.
I'm also pretty stubborn. Like, I'm starting to recognize when I need help and ask for help more, but I have a hard time. Asking for help or accepting help.
I congratulate you on all of the years of sobriety. That's really awesome. I know that that's not an easy road, that's for sure. Would you say that there are community biases towards those living within poverty?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm lucky that I live in the neighborhood that I do. I live in Bowness. It's been a wonderful neighborhood, but there's a lot of other neighborhoods where they're very, very resistant to affordable housing. They're very, very hesitant to have housing for the homeless come in. Let's not even get on the city's whole attitude towards homelessness. We still got so many bylaws on the books that are designed to target an unhoused community. And police are constantly harassing homeless Calgarians. And it's a shame. I think that their resources would be better used doing things besides, harassing the homeless community. And I think the easiest way to do that is to go through all the books and find out what laws specifically target the homeless community and get rid of those.
You were able to implement change in, our municipal governments, in our provincial government, in our federal government, or in the supporting agencies that come around people who are experiencing poverty. What are some of the things that you would change to make it different?
More debt forgiveness. Again, get rid of bylaws that specifically target the homeless and the poor.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate your insight, and I really appreciate your time today, Nigel, and sharing with me. And I hope that we can continue to do these dialogues so that we I can better understand, and hopefully other people can better understand. And with the understanding, hopefully we can make some inroads somewhere along the line. I don't even know what that looks like at this point, but I just really appreciate the conversation today.
No, thank you.
What a powerful conversation all those people were having. The next video, I don't really need to open it up because they already have questions to ask you themselves.
Challenging people's perspectives of poverty.
Challenge people's perspectives on poverty.
Will you accept the challenge?
Will you accept the challenge?
Will you accept the challenge?
Challenging people's perception of poverty.
Will you accept the challenge?
Accept the challenge.
Will you accept the challenge?
Challenging the people's perspective of poverty.
Challenging people's perspective of poverty.
Challenging people's perceptions of poverty.
Will you accept the challenge?
My only question is, will you accept the challenge? What a powerful question. Let's take a look at the next actions in the video.
I'd like to introduce the Dignity for All co-leads and tell us a bit about what Chew on This is.
Thanks, Amber. So my name is Natalie Appleyard, and I work with Citizens for Public Justice. We're one of the co-leads of Dignity for All. And the Chew on This campaign is an annual campaign that is a nonpartisan coalition of advocates, community groups, faith groups, academics, and other members of civil society who are committed to ending poverty in Canada. So each year around October 17th, which is the International Day for the Eradication of Poverty, Chew on This organizers and supporters engage their local communities and members of parliament to raise awareness about poverty and food security in Canada and to call for justice for people living in poverty and precarity.
Wow, that sounds like a wonderful campaign. Poverty Talks has joined this Chew on This campaign every year because poverty is bigger than just how we live. Poverty is grounded in the government's decisions and policies And the Chew on This campaign is the place to make broader systemic change and reach the politicians that can make these changes. What is the Chew on This campaign asking the government to do?
Thank you, Amber. And I'm Emily. I'm the National Coordinator at Canada Without Poverty. We're another Dignity for All co-lead. Now, to answer your question, this year's Chew on This campaign calls on MPs and senators of all political stripes to sign our pledge committing to specific targets and timelines to end inequity and poverty in Canada. The targets relate to things like clean drinking water and food insecurity, housing, income security, employment, early childhood education and care, and health, with a specific focus on people who are disproportionately impacted by poverty because of intersecting identities like ethnicity or indigeneity, gender, disability, marital status or immigration status, or sexual orientation, as well as recognizing the particular needs of youth aging out of the foster care system in Canada.
Why? Why are we asking the government to do this, Ruva?
That's a great question, Amber. My name is Ruva Guacarere, and I work as the Public Justice Intern at Citizens for Public Justice, CPJ. And we're asking the government to do this because in 2019, they committed to reducing poverty by levels of 50% of what they were in 2015 by the year 2030. And we want to know who's going to be included in that 50% and who's going to be left behind. We need specific targets and timelines for the groups that are typically marginalized to ensure that our efforts to address poverty are effective and equitable. We need to make sure that no one is left behind and that everyone's rights and dignity are honored.
Wow. And what are we asking organizers and supporters to do, Natalie?
The first thing that we're asking people to do is to engage with their local members of parliament and ask them to sign our pledge between now and the end of October. So people can do this by inviting their MPs to a virtual or an in-person meeting or an event. They can send a letter asking them to sign the pledge, or they can even make a phone call and refer them to the online pledge form on our website. And you can also engage with them on social media. So we have lots of resources that people can download and customize from our website, or you can also order printed hard copies of the pledge for free. And we also encourage people to engage with their local media, use social media again to raise awareness and just to keep the pressure up on our elected officials. And then the second thing that we're asking people to do is to attend our virtual town hall on October 20th, and that's at 2 p.m. Eastern or noon Mountain Time. And we'll be inviting the minister responsible for the poverty reduction strategy and critics from other parties to discuss our pledge and government responses.
How do we find out more?
Well, the first thing to do is check out chewonthis.ca for all kinds of information and resources, and to register as an organizer or supporter of the Chew on This campaign. You can also watch the recordings of our 2 training webinars. The first webinar goes over our key talking points and provides some background information on the targets and timelines included on this year's pledge. The second training webinar on October 15th focuses on strategies to engage effectively with MPs and decision makers. We'll hope you'll join us for this year's call for a fair and effective end to poverty and inequity in Canada.
Wow, what an amazing campaign. You guys are rock stars. Thank you.
And we have amazing rock star organizers like Amber and Poverty Talks, so thank you.
Not possible without the organizers, that's for sure.
Well, Franco, what are your thoughts after seeing this video?
Hannah, not just the video, but it's the whole event. It feels overwhelming, and I'm kind of feeling just like one of the people participating in this whole event. And we're all in different places, and we're all kind of feeling different things. And the question becomes for each of us to say, what am I going to do? For me, I got to say, Hannah, I'm involved in a couple of things, which this is absolutely reinforced. We are launching on the 1st of November, the Living Wage Network in Alberta. We're going to be encouraging, obviously, all the municipalities. We have 13 municipalities on side now. And we're in fact hoping that we're going to be spotlighting employers. So this is focusing on the working poor. that we're now doing calculations of a living wage right across the province. I feel very proud of that. So that's more at a system level, for sure. And there's another group called the Poverty Reduction Network across the province to share information and to see what we can do with municipal, federal, as has already been indicated, with government. So I think that's kind of another area. But I think the thing that comes to me really through in all of the videos is that we're all human beings, all of us. We all have needs. We all want to be appreciated for who we are and what we have and what our talents and what we're able to, that we can be as full participants in our society and in our community. And so what I'm trying to figure out is what can I do more in that area as well on a day-to-day basis. And I thought Meaghon threw out some really interesting, very simple tasks. Visit your neighbor. If you haven't talked to him yet. If you have, just follow up. Like, what a simple gesture. But just think, the ones that are us on this call today, if we were all to do that, just in the next 2 days, and what will be the spin-offs of that in the weeks and months to come? What I'm hoping more than anything else is that there's been a tremendous response to this event today. I'm hoping that we're all encouraged. And the last thing I would say is I've got a couple of Rotarian friends on this call. We're in Rotary, and we're lots of people that are fairly privileged. Can we now, in fact, bring this message today to all of those organizations that we're all part of, and hopefully motivate some action? So those are some feelings. On one side, I'm overwhelmed. On the other side, I'm feeling extremely hopeful and re-energized.
I feel you there. I can totally agree with you, Franco. It actually, this video seminar actually reminds me of when I was 13, and I actually started going to Poverty Talks events with my mom because they were on Friday and I didn't have school on Friday. And I found myself after the meeting having so many questions. I couldn't wrap my brain around homelessness, and it was a big thing for me. And over the next while, I went to about 5 meetings, and I found myself sitting and talking to all of the Poverty Talks members and actually getting to know them. And it made me think, when I was a kid, it didn't matter who you were, what you were wearing, or where you were going. I would always stop and try and send my smile like it was candy that I had an unlimited amount of and I could give to everybody. And I would try and make eye contact with them, and I would put the biggest one on I could, and I would always try and talk to them. And it didn't matter if it was about their day or about their dog or about how many kids they had, but I always made it a very strong effort to give out my smiles in conversation. And I found that adults forget that as a kid, you would give them out freely. And now you have to earn it. And as an adult now, I have grown into that. You have to earn my conversation. You have to earn my smile. But going to the Poverty Talks events made me think sometimes it's okay to think like a kid, because adults don't always know the answers. And a smile in a conversation is free and something you can give to everybody.
It's interesting you say that, Hannah, because it really brought back, and this is some of the things that Nigel from Poverty Talks, he and I have had lots of conversations over the years. And I can recall, this is a real story. He and Sue Gwynn, and I can't remember, there was a third person, but they were talking to at our Rotary Club. They were making a presentation. This was like 2 or 3 years ago, and talking about what we're talking about today. And a question from the floor was this, and this because we meet downtown, and they said, people come up to me and ask me for money, like panhandle. What should I do? And I can remember Nigel saying, treat them as human beings. You may decide not to give them any money. That's fine. But don't just walk by. Actually connect, just the very things you're saying. It's free. Eye contact, a smile. How are you doing? Introduce yourself. Something simple as that. If you want to give them money, but then don't put any conditions on it. It's a gift that you're providing them. And honestly, that has motivated me over the last number of years, that simple action. So it's just building on what you're saying, Hannah, that I think we need to be human beings. And I think there was I can't recall now, one of the videos about judgment. Remove judgment. Come to us as that it could be me, it could be you, it could be all of us, but we're all in this together. So I think what I'm especially delighted, of course, is to be hosting with you, because you're a young person. I'm at the other end of the continuum. And I know with the energy that you bring with so many others, we're going to be in good shape. And maybe we can really move the needle with the kind of things that you've been saying and everybody else has been saying. And all of us on this, that we've taken the time this afternoon to advance this cause and to truly, in the long term, long term, eradicate poverty from the face of the planet. Wouldn't that be fantastic?
Oh, it would be. And don't get me wrong, my parents put in some very strict rules about staying on the sidewalk because, I was very adorable and very kidnappable. So
okay.
need to be in place.
That's great.
And yeah, no, go talk to your neighbors. And just because it's COVID doesn't mean, you can't do it a different way. Ringing the doorbell and taking a couple steps off the door isn't gonna scare anybody or freak anybody out, but you can still have that nice conversation. Okay, so we would like to thank all the folks that participated in the video, and the videographer and Matt. Your voices, for all those that have participated, have gratefully brought this whole event together, because if it wasn't for you guys, we wouldn't have the perspective to continue on and keep that in mind every single day from this event on. And I would like to thank again the City of Calgary, the United Way, and Momentum. Elder Wallace Allison, Mayor Nenshi, Vibrant Community Calgary, the seven individuals who shared their stories, Monica, and all the Poverty Talks members, thank you so much for making this possible. Thank you, everybody who came to watch this and participate in the conversation. Thank you so much.
And lastly, of course, there's been lots of reference to it. When I came to Vibrant Communities Calgary as a staff person, the Poverty Talks is really a way that we need to keep the lived. Meaghon was so articulate how important it is in all organizations to keep the lived experience, and Poverty Talks does that. And we could not have had today what we've had without the experience in the room. And so, as Meaghon kind of encouraged all of us, is bring lived experience into every room across our city on all of these conversations. But our thanks to the Poverty Talks members who have worked so hard and continue to work so hard to make this reality. And of course, the Enough for All for strategy, which has all kinds of organizations and individuals behind it. Let us all recommit today to get behind both of these folks, these groups, and make this a reality and advance poverty reduction in our city.
To Franco, I have enjoyed our co-hosting very much. Franco and I have picked out a quote to share with everybody to end this event off. It's from Gandhi. Poverty is the worst form of violence.
Thank you, Hannah. And I think we're done. Have a great day, all. Bye-bye, Hannah. Bye.